So if you haven't already got it by the title, we're making a Wi-Fi heat map. If you don't know what that is, they're really hard to come by in the networking world. There's a bunch of different solutions you can buy online, but they basically have two problems. One is that they're really convoluted. Like they have way too many features and things that don't really matter to me. And the other thing is that 90% of them are paid. I actually have yet to find a free version of a Wi-Fi heat map that is free. So I've decided to sort of make that on my own. And at first it was going to be something that I was just going to use myself out in the actual field of networking. But I've decided to share that knowledge with you guys. And if you're into Python or maybe you're learning it, I figured that this is a great opportunity for you to start a project of your own and also learn something really cool and something that's actually pretty useful. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I'll be coding this from scratch, but I kind of wanted to show you guys right up front the final-ish product. It still needs a lot of work, but this will at least get you hitting the ground running with Python and learning some really cool things. So this is gonna be what it looks like. You have a very simple, basic UI here. The idea, just to kind of let you know, is that this white area that you see here would be a floor plan, and you can sort of drag wireless access points onto the map and get a general range of the Wi-Fi. Now, there's something to keep in mind here with this. It's not scaled yet, which means that if you import a floor plan that's 400 feet by 600 feet, and that's your floor plan, it won't scale the Wi-Fi range properly. So that's something that we'll have to build later together. But this is sort of just a regurgitation of an idea, right? So this is sort of like phase one, super alpha, super beta, idea. So let's take a look at this. We can go up to File and import a picture. Now I've loaded some example pictures in here. So a couple of floor plans, one really basic floor plan like that, and one more detailed like this. So here's our floor plan. Let's say we want to add like an AC Pro. Basically, you just click on the AC Pro, and then you can click on the Wi-Fi map and drag it anywhere that you'd like. As long as you have selected the AC Pro, it's not going to add more APs the more you click. You can just drag it wherever you'd like. Let's say it's maybe exists on this corner. Let's say this is a client and they're having some trouble with internet in their kitchen, right? Or something, and they have a Wi-Fi AP over here, and maybe one of these lights over here, right? You can very easily create this. You can save it, and then you can print it or do whatever you want with it. Send it in an email, and then you can say, hey, yeah, you're not getting Wi-Fi in the kitchen because you just don't have coverage. Your AP is over here and over here. Let's take a look at a configuration that works better for you. Something like more centrally located AP right here, and then something like that. And then you can send that off in an email and say, hey, let's take a look at this diagram I made for you. This is a better configuration, as you can obviously tell. You have really strong coverage here, and then everywhere else in the house has pretty good coverage, provided you're not in your closet in the back, something like that. So this is pretty useful. It's pretty handy. It actually is something that I could see myself using out in the field quite often. There's a lot of times where businesses will just slap APs in, and I've actually seen network technicians do the same thing. They will just find the network closet and a 3-foot cable and then plug a Wifi AC Pro in there. And it's like, dude, what are you doing? You just stuck an AC Pro in a closet. Like, what are you doing? At the far back of the account. That doesn't make any sense. There's no rhyme or reason to it. So thank you very much for the follow. VIP Super Dave. VIP Super Dave. Thanks for the follow. So let's get into coding this. Let's see what it looks like. I think I'm gonna just sort of erase pretty much everything, except for the imports. We'll go from there. So if you guys have been following my channel for a little while, you know that I'm pretty content on tkinter or kinter. So what kinter is it's a Python GUI, not module, what's the word I'm looking for, plugin-ish thing. Basically, you can import it, you can import it into your Visual Studio Code or whatever your IDE is, and then you have access to all of those functions that it offers. And it's a very easy way of making a GUI. You can basically have a root that you can assign, and then you create a main loop afterwards. And the main loop, if you don't know what a GUI is in coding terms, it's essentially just like a series of code that just continuously runs in a loop pretty much forever until you break that loop. I didn't know that before, which is actually pretty interesting, because if you know anything about like while loops, you know that it stresses your computer out as long as they're running. Same thing with a GUI. So you have to code it sort of creatively, in a sense that it doesn't stress your computer out. So the way that I tackle that is with pretty much every action as a defining function inside of the loop, so it's not running like a million things at once. So let's do root is equal to tk with a capital T, and then we can say root.mainLoop with a function at the end, and that's our GUI essentially. So anything between where we define root and the main loop is the GUI. So what I like to do is just add a ton of space between the top and bottom of this, and this is where we will write our code for that sort of loop, right? So let's see, we can add a title by saying root.title is equal to, or I'm sorry, root.title, and then we pass in text. So we can say, Wi-Fi heat map. Particularly, my company uses Wifi pretty much exclusively. So for this, I called it Wifi heat map. You can name it whatever you'd like. If you don't want to use Wifi products in this, you want to import your own APs, you certainly can. Actually, the idea behind this was to create like a huge amount of APs, like common ones seen out in the field, so I can sort of replicate what people have and show them why Wifi is better. So, but that's for a different day. That's going to be quite a lot of work. So if we do root dot geometry, we can specify, I found that this is a good size, 700 by 600. You can do, again, whatever you'd like, but that's just kind of a size that I like. Now, one thing that I like to do a lot is if you go to color picker, you can find a bunch of different ones, but this one is particularly just Google's version of it. You can find like cool colors of what you want your GUI to be. Usually I pick like sort of what Visual Studio Code has as dark colors. So what I like to do, I found that hex code, what is this, 292929. I like that a lot. I think it pretty much matches the background of Visual Studio Code. But again, you can use anything you want. So I just copy that. And then I can say root.config. And then pass in a BG, which stands for background. And then we can use a hex color. So let's run this and see what we have so far. It doesn't like the color because we encapsulated it in a string. We just want that to be a string. There we go. So there we go. We got a little GUI. I mean, already this is looking pretty nice. It's resizable, and I don't particularly like that because it can screw up your GUI. So one thing I'm going to add that I actually didn't add to the last one is... Whoops, did I just close out? Hopefully that saved. Yep, it did. Let's see, resize. There's a way you can limit the resize of it, and I forgot how to do it. So let's look that up together. 90% of what I do is Google stuff, by the way. So we can say Python resize, or Python Kinter resize window. This guy is really helpful, by the way. If you're into Kinter, I've watched like 90% of his videos. He's really good at it. We want to disable window resize. There we go. So I know it's, yeah, it's like, yeah, resizable false. I'm just going to copy that because we are using root. There you go. See if that works. And it does, yes. So if you can see here, before, without this, we got those little indicators that we can resize the window down here. See? We can remove it. With this in there, we can, it just disables that feature, basically. So we can't actually resize the window. It just stays here. So I actually like that. So we're going to leave that in there. Now let's create our first canvas. So the way Python works, just to sort of reiterate, is you have your main GUI, which is your, in our case, just a box. And then you can create boxes inside of the box, right? So you can create a canvas, which is essentially, I use the canvas like this, right? So we have our main GUI, which we won't write to. That's the root. And then we have our canvas, which pretty much takes up the entire space, right? And then so this is a canvas. And then in the canvas, we can create, so you can create frames. So this would be a frame. And we literally use these, words in our code. I'll show you in just a moment. Super Dave says the canvas would be like the actual print area of your printer. Yeah, exactly. Yep. So, and you can decrease or increase those margins however you'd like. I treat the canvas as basically the full page of the GUI, but you can actually create a canvas that's smaller if you'd like. I don't know why you would. It's just an aesthetic thing at that point, really. So here you go. You have a canvas, you have a frame. Okay, so let's start with canvas, the first canvas, which is going to be our sort of root canvas, but I like to call it main canvas to keep it consistent. So we're going to name that, or in Kinterland, it's just canvas. And then we can pass in the root because we're saying, hey, I want this canvas to live on the root. And then we can pass in a few functions here. We can say the width is equal to the number 600. And the height is equal to 120. And then we have a background. We will just pass in white, which you can do in Python. Instead of putting in hex codes, you can put in just white, like generic colors, white, black, red, green, blue, whatever you want. I just find that white is just the most used. So let's run that and see what we get. All right, we have to put it in. So we've created the canvas, but we haven't told it to actually go anywhere yet. So with the main canvas, I just use the pack feature. Pretty much everything else I use place. So there's pack and place. You can pack in this, and we'll give it a pad Y, which gives it that little gap that I was talking about right here. See how there's like a tiny, I'll put it in red so you can see it. So that is the pad that I'm putting in right now. So we'll say pad Y is equal to 10. And 10 is like in pixels, so it's like very small. So now let's see what we get. Okay, there you go. That works. So actually I just realized that this is the bottom, which is totally fine. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Nope, I was right. This is the main canvas. I just put my dimensions wrong. 600 by 400. Yep, there we go. All right, so you can see that the main canvas is a tiny little border at the top there. That's the pad. If I got rid of the pad, that border would go away. And then we are going to put in bottom canvas, and again, these variables, you can name anything you want. We're going to say canvas. We're going to pass it into the root, and we're going to give it a width of same width, 600, but we're going to put the height much smaller. This is the 120. And then we will put a background of another hex, which I think is just a slight off-white. Let's take a look. Nope, it's actually the same. Okay. Not really sure what this is, guys. Let's see what this is. So let's we'll pack that in as well. If I can type. Okay. Okay, I'm not sure. Is that how I had it? I think that's how I had it. We'll call it good. It looks nice. So what we want to do now is, let's create a label. So we're going to say my label is equal to label. We're going to pass it into the root. Our text is going to be nothing. And I'll show you what we're making in just a second. This is pretty cool. Background. If you guys haven't noticed, I love picking my own colors for backgrounds. I think it's really cool. So I'm going to use 292929 again. That's that dark gray. And we're going to create a foreground of white. So the foreground of labels is just the text color. Background is the background of the text color. So if you sort of think about it, you want your text to be the same color as your background if you want it to look transparent. So let's pack that in. My label dot pack. I use pack a lot in this. I'm actually surprised. And we're going to pack it on the bottom, which you can specify a side. So let's take a look at that. Nothing is there yet because there's no text, but if I say hello here, you'll see it's at the bottom, hello. This is going to be the place for our coordinates. There's a really cool way to click and drag things, and that's what we're going to implement right now. And this is going to be a text holder, or placeholder rather, for our coordinates. Right, so if you're coding along, this is up on my GitHub, but I have all these pictures here. I created these in Photoshop, actually. Just a transparent circle. Nothing special. Took me 2 minutes to, kind of looks like a Wifi AP in a way. So kind of like that. This is one that I just didn't use, so if it's on my GitHub, don't feel like you need to import that. But these AP icons are pretty nice. In the Wi-Fi, you'll obviously need that for the coding portion. So we're gonna do our pictures. All right. So let's put in our pictures. So first one we're gonna do is image, and we're gonna say photo image, which is a resort of PIL. So what you're gonna want to do before you even get started with any of this is import PIL and Tkinter. Don't really need file dialog. Well, actually you do. If you want to pick a picture, you do. So we're gonna say file image, and we're gonna say this is equal to file. And we're going to put in the root of our picture. So we'll say pics app icon.png. So we're looking at this one here, app icon.png. So that's our picture there. We're going to create a new label. Image label is equal to label. And then we're going to say bottom canvas. So all we're saying is here is we're packing in that picture into the bottom canvas, right? That's where we want it. And then we can say the image is equal to img, which is the one that we created. And we're going to create the background the same color. So we're going to take our bottom canvas color, we're going to pass that in to background is equal to that. So let's see what that looks like. It's not there yet because we haven't put it there. We're going to bind it. So we're going to say image label.bind, and we're going to bind it to, I think it's button 1. It is button well, we want that as a string, button 1. And the function, we're going to say profunc. Now, when you bind it and you pass in a function like this, there's two things you need to make sure that you do. You need to make sure that the function exists, or else the program won't run. And you also need to make sure that you pass in an event of some sort. These are things that I typically forget. So also this string is incorrect. It needs to be the whole thing. Okay, so we want to create profunc. So I'm going to take a break from that for a second, come up here, and then we're going to pass in, we're going to define profunc, and then pass in an event. And then we can literally just say pass here, so it doesn't do anything. We'll do that later. But we just want to make sure that our code works, so we got to do those two things. And then we're going to do image label dot place, and then we're going to place it relative x 0.03 and relative y is 0.13. These are just dimensions that I figured out work for me. And there you go. So now we've imported our AP into the bottom frame here, and it's starting to look good. So I'm just going to copy and paste this because I want to do that again, except this time we're going to name this variable image2, and we're going to pass in the Mac Pro PNG. So now we're looking at this one. Boop. Slightly smaller one. Okay. So Mac Pro, image label, 2. So we're going to do 2 and 2. And bottom canvas is okay. This is going to be image 2. Profunc 2 is what we're going to create for the variable. So again, we come up here, create profunc 2, pass in the event, and then just pass for now. And place is going to be slightly different. This is going to be 0.28 and 0.26. Let's see what that looks like. Boom, there you go. So now we have a big one and a small one. Let's do the click and drag thing. So I want to be able to click this AP and drag it into this canvas before we import anything. Let's get that started. So we're going to come up here to functions, and we're going to define move, pass in an event, and we're going to say x is equal to 600, 2 like this, and then y 400, 2 like that. Yeah, let's just shove them in. For some reason, you need globals before you declare the variables. So I'm just going to put them in here because this took a while to figure out. Image 5, image 6, and then global count. And then we're going to define global 5 or image 5 here as photo image. We're going to say that the file is pics, and then we're going to put in the heat map to picture .png. So we're looking at this. So this is kind of where we're doing the click and drag thing. We're getting this all ready. And then we can say my image 2 is equal to canvas 6. Now we're creating a canvas technically. So this is what I meant earlier by they're more flexible. You can actually move these things, whereas a frame, I don't think you could. So say e.x, e.y, and then we'll give it the image 5, which we created up there. Okay. Cool. Let's do the same with image 6, except we're going to use the Mac Pro. So what we're doing here is essentially I want the AP to be on top of the background. You don't hear any background music at all. Okay, well, it's there. It's just quiet. Let me know if you can hear that. Whatever. It doesn't matter anyway. But we're gonna rename this image 6. Mac Pro's fine. My image. Okay, and we'll just pass in that. We can leave this as create because it will be a part of the same picture. And we can say my label is equal to, or my label dot config. And then we can say text is equal to coordinates x equals, and then we can add in, we can append the string of e.x plus, you'll see what this does in just a moment, y equals append the string of e.y. So all this is doing is it's creating this label will just tell us the coordinates at the bottom. It's actually really not needed. You really don't need to put that in there if you don't want to. But that's just the way it is. So let's move profunc. We're going to delete it from up here and move it between the code, the main canvas, and this. And what we're going to do is we're going to say global, and we're going to say pro select. Remember that we have to declare a global variable before the variable is even a thing. I don't know why, but we're gonna now create that pro select plus equals 1, and then we can say if pro select is greater than or equal to 1, which means if we've used it once, we can say canvas.bind. We're gonna bind it to the button button motion, B1 motion, like that. And we're gonna say move. So what I just did was very confusing, but essentially, if you have selected the AP, then we are allowed to move that AP using the B1 motion, which is click and drag. So that's all we're saying. It's very kind of a roundabout way of doing it, but it works really well, I found. And it keeps, like I mentioned in the very, very beginning of this, it keeps the GUI running nice and smooth. So that's just how I do it. Then we're gonna do the same thing for the other function. And I'm gonna move it down below here. And we're gonna say literally the same thing. So we're gonna go here like this and just paste it in. Except we're going to say move to. So now we have two functions that are declared here that don't have anything to them yet. Oh yes, now I hear it. Just turned up the volume on my home theater system. Okay, great. I just want to make sure it's not too loud, that's all. So thank you. So we have move, and then we're going to create move to. Which comes first? Move actually comes second in mine. So I'm going to copy all of this, and we're going to move that down. We're going to paste it above it and call it move to. But we have to fix all of this stuff. So we're going to say image 8 and image 55. We're going to get rid of the count because we don't need that anymore. And we're going to create 8 here. heat map 3, which is slightly different. Image 8. Canvas 6 is okay. But we want to change the image 8 here, so that's its own thing. We're going to do the same thing over here, but with 55. Don't ask me why I use 55. I do not know. Okay, Mac Pro is fine. That's fine. We want that to be 55. Okay. I think that's it for that. We've done a lot of coding. Let's run this and see what happens. Okay, so ProSelect is not defined. Where is ProSelect here? Ah, so the very top underneath our declarations here, we are going to say ProSelect is equal to 0 and AC select is equal to 0. So they have values, or else the program will yell at us. Let's see what else we broke. B1 motion on line 56 says canvas is not defined. So let's look at 56, canvas.bind, canvas6.bind. I believe. Let me just double check. Yes. So canvas doesn't exist. It's canvas 6 is what we created. Let's see what else we broke. Canvas 6 is not defined. Oh, okay, so I see. Canvas 6 is actually the picture, not... This isn't Canvas 6. Canvas 6 is when we import the picture. So we've done great work. Let's take a step back and let's create the files, or the file dialog at the top. So, like, you see how this has file, edit, selection? We're going to create that in our own GUI. So let's do that real quick, because without that, we can't continue. So we're going to say menu bar is equal to menu that we pass into the root. And then we can say file menu is equal to menu and then menu bar. And then we're going to say tear off is equal to 0. Still don't actually know what tear off does. I just know that setting that to 0 is like the default. I should probably learn that sometime. Command, add command. We're going to say label is equal to import. And then the command is equal to import site. So just like a bind, we're creating a command called import site that'll be a function. So file menu dot add another command. Label is, we can say save here. And command is equal to, we're going to say do nothing. And the reason I do this in my code a lot is because it's like I have the idea that I want to save it, but I just don't know how to implement it yet. So you can add a save option if you'd like later. Do file menu dot add separator. And that's it. And then we can do file menu dot add command. This is just a stack, by the way. So it looks kind of complicated, but what we're doing is we're building out the stack of menu options, that's all. And we can say label is equal to info. That can just be whatever. Again, do nothing. We're gonna add a cascade. Label equals help. help menu, and then we can say root.config menu equals menu bar. Okay, there's that. Good God. Let's see what that looks like. We have to create these functions. So underneath all the other functions, we're going to create, define that. And then we'll just say pass for now. Do nothing. We'll create underneath that. Define, do nothing. Pass. And there's one more, right? Help menu. Oh no, that's not a function. Okay, so that should run. It doesn't like something. What does it not like? Line 101. So I should create these. I don't think that matters, but let's just change those to lowercase l's. I didn't actually create the help menu. So it's going to be help menu equals menu, menu bar, tear off 0. And then the command is info, do nothing. With the menu of help menu. There we go. Although it's not there. Because we need to config it. That's why. Root.config menu equals menu bar. There. Now, there we go. Okay, so now we have import, save, exit. Then info, save does nothing, exit actually exits, and import does nothing. Okay, so now that we have file dialog in here, let's go to the import function, or import site. Okay, and we're going to do a few things. We're going to say apps are equal to a blank list. We're going to do file name. File name is equal to file dialog dot ask open file name initial directory is equal to, this can be anything you want, by the way. I just always start in C, and then I do title select files as a string. Just like that. Okay, cool. Now we can say file types. This is where you can sort of specify what your file dialog decides to want to pick out. So you just allow all files. We don't need .exes in there. That I just remembered I copied and pasted off my old apps running thing, and you really don't want to throw an exe in there. It doesn't make any sense. So let's go to apps.append, and then we're going to say file name. We're going to create two global variables called canvas6. This is where that error came into play. And then we can say photo6. So now we can say canvas6 is equal to canvas, in the main canvas, height is equal to 8, width is equal to 12, and the BG can be white. Canvas6 dot place. But before we do that, let's add a couple spaces and do photo6 is equal to image tk dot photo image, and then we can say the file is equal to apps index position 0 out of the list, and then we can say item 6 is equal to canvas 6 dot create image, and then 310 210, this crops it, and then we can say image equals photo6, set that as a variable, and then we can place. So we want to place it in relative x0, relative y0, rel height 1, rel width 1. I'm just going to copy and paste this because I don't feel like typing that out. Boop. So I believe this will put in our canvas. Let's import that. Now the picture is canvas 6. We should be able to drag. There we go. Yes. So that's all we were missing. Canvas 6 is actually the picture, not the background. That's my mistake. I completely forgot I did that. So there you go. That's pretty much it, I think. All right, I'm gonna wrap it up here. If you were along for the ride, thank you for watching the video, and I hope this helps someone out. I know this was kind of confusing. I think this was a project that sort of lived in my head for a few months, and I just sort of regurgitated it on paper, so to speak, and this is the result of that. So I don't intend any of my videos, by the way, to be like, you should do coding this way. I don't think that's a good idea because I'm actually fairly new at it myself, but it's something that I think that can benefit a lot of people in that it gets your brain going, kind of thinking on how I could do this. And then maybe this is a project that you pick up and make better, right? That's kind of my hope. So again, this will be on my GitHub, all the code linked below. Thanks for stopping by and watching my videos, and I'll see you in the next project. Take care, guys. See you guys.